Hi guys, let's do some more revision for theme D this time. Oh, sorry dog. Just woke the dog up. Come here, Bubs. I'm sorry I woke you up. Though, not that sorry, because yesterday you were sick on me, weren't you? Well, you were sick on the sofa. Hello, dog. It's probably a bit dark to see you on the video. So we're going to do theme D, which is religion and war. We did religion and war key terms yesterday. Yeah, you're just happy to see me, aren't you? Woke you up, I'm sorry. So we'll go through the key concepts and some key quotes today, and then we'll look at some 12-mark questions. I think there might be another relatively obvious shout for a question that could come up. Okay, you go and lie down, Bobs. Rosa, go lie down. Professor, you go lie down. So, I've made all my signs. I've built a little furnace in here so I can keep making copper while we do that, and I cooked some fish in case my man gets hungry. When I found some fish ages ago, so I might have to eat all these fish. So I was doing that one year off. So, first of all, terrorism, okay? We said yesterday in the keywords thing. If you need to do the keywords, it's yesterday's video. Terrorism is the idea of changing governments' minds and putting pressure on governments by committing acts of terror and using violence against the general population. So, there's the easiest quote to do on terrorism ever, okay? The easiest one from a Christian point of view is, thou shalt not kill, okay? Thou shalt not kill can be used on terrorism, on war, on holy war, on pacifism, because you're saying why it agrees with pacifism, on weapons of mass destruction. Not really so much on victims of war, but that means thou shalt not kill, one of the 10 commandments, can be used on 5 of the 6 major topics, okay, that I'm going to do quotes for today. That ain't bad. If you're not using thou shalt not kill in this section, you are probably missing something, okay? Thou shalt not kill, okay? Now, the other one I think you can use for terrorism, and it's a bit of a strange one, and it could be about the reaction to terrorism, okay? Could be I could see I for an eye coming up, okay? If you wanted to go eye for an eye. I don't think they'll make you argue in favour of terrorism. I would be really worried if they did. So you could say, oh, how should, if the question, and this might fear that there's a question that's 12 markers saying like, violence is the only appropriate response to terrorism, basically suggesting that you have to attack terrorists because that is the only appropriate response. Rosa, get out from underneath there and go and lie down in your bed. Sorry, she's trying to sniff out where the computer is. No, yeah, there you go. Play with your toy. Good girl. So, you'd have to say, oh, yes, it's right to go and fight terrorists and kill them because the Bible says an eye for an eye. And then you can do all the pacifist quotes later, okay? Now, the only reason you wouldn't respond to violence with terrorists is when Jesus is asked about an eye for eye, he says, you have heard it been said that it's an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the cheek, okay, turn the other cheek. Now it says also, but I think you can get away with not saying also, because turn the other cheek is the most famous part of the quote, okay? This is basically a quote saying by Jesus being like, if you are treated with anger, you shouldn't... What can I hear? Oh, I can hear people outside firing arrows. I don't care. It's going to be daylight soon and you're going to burn. And I'm safe in my little church. So you carry on firing arrows. So turn the other cheek is basically saying that if someone treats you with violence, do not respond to them with violence. If they have sinned, it doesn't mean you have to sin as well, okay? Turn the other cheek. Nice simple one on that one. And love thy enemy and pray for those who persecute you. Okay? So if you could argue that terrorists were persecuting you, picking on you for no reason, you should love thy enemy and pray for those who persecute you. The terrorist is the one committing the sin. They're the ones who are sinning, whether it's a sin against the Bible or the Quran, they are sinning. So you should love thy enemy and pray for those who persecute you. Pray for their souls because they're the ones who might go to hell for their actions. So you're praying for them. Now, the only one I'm going to throw in the middle there is a Muslim quote. And I don't normally do Muslim quotes directly, but terrorism obviously has such an association in recent times with Islam, and many people stereotyping or making that idea that Islamic terrorism is the only form of terrorism when We know it's not, okay, if we're being sensible and smart. But there's often a big association that with the lesser jihad, okay, the lesser jihad, and I'll put that there, is the idea, and it's in my Islam video if you go back and watch that. The lesser jihad is the idea that all Muslims have a duty to defend the religion, and the term jihadi is often used to talk about terrorists, people who are willing to fight to defend the religion. But if you want to talk about Islam and terrorism and say that it's wrong, because don't forget, I'm pretty sure the exam board will want you to argue terrorism is wrong, it's terrorism, okay? It will be Allah does not love the aggressor. Now, if your school has done Buddhism, or if your school has done Sikhism or Hinduism or Judaism, you can still use Muslim quotes in there, as long as you say it's a Muslim quote, okay? This themes paper, it doesn't say what religions you have to do about. It doesn't matter what you chose in the first exam. So, even if in the first exam you did about Christianity and Islam, and you suddenly want to drop in a Buddhist section in this one, absolutely fine. And the same way, if you did Buddhism and Christianity in the first exam, and suddenly you want to drop in Islam, that's absolutely fine, okay? Now, I would recommend going with what your teachers have taught you first. Your teachers will know best what you've taught and taught you the right sort of quotes and stuff like that. But this is just me giving advice for one of my classes, and a nice easy quote about terrorism. Allah does not love the aggressor, okay? Nice simple about that. So, war in general. And this is whether we should fight in wars or whether we should not fight in wars, okay? So, they might ask about the cause of war, and you could bust out a quote like, the love of money is the root of all evil. I might put that up there. In fact, we'll bust that up there. Cause of war. And I'll bust out. So it's about greed. Love of money is the root of all evil. Okay? And do not repay anyone evil for evil. Okay, this is the idea that we shouldn't retaliate to violence. So we talked about cause of war, and it was like, retaliation is the only appropriate cause for war, which would be a tough question in my mind. You could be like, no, you could go yes, because greed is not a good reason to go to war. In the rules of just war, it would be inappropriate, and that's because the love of money is the root of all evil, so we should not go to war just to try and get money. Also, some Christians would teach that it's never right to go to war just to pay someone back for an attack they've done against you. Do not pay anyone evil for evil. However, the Bible also suggests an eye for an eye, which suggests we can retaliate to people's violence if they've been violent against us. For example, if one country had attacked your country, we have a right to defend ourselves. But Jesus said to turn the other cheek. This means we should not react to violence with violence, and that we should love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us, even if they treat us badly. Overall, I think this is a bad idea, because if you don't respond to people who attack you with violence, then they may be able to take advantage of a country and take over and treat your people very badly, blah, 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 blah. You're going to give nice paragraphs, okay, about persecution and how people are treated. Think there's easy stuff in there to do, okay? So cause of war, I don't mind so much. But this is just about, like, should we go to war in the first place, okay? And the first thing I want to talk about is just war, okay? Now, I wish I put his name in there now. I'm going to do it again. Just war. And coined by Thomas Aquinas, okay? Thomas Aquinas is a Christian philosopher. He does lots of philosophy about natural law, about like what is wrong and right, okay? About morality. Sorry, I'm yawning again. This is bad, okay? So he does lots of stuff about just natural law and morality and what is right. And he comes up with this just war theory. And his just war theory is about when is it right to fight in a war, okay? And you can drop in just war, and it's Christian teaching, but it looks even better if you give it the source, which is Thomas Aquinas, okay? And you can say in Thomas Aquinas's, or in Aquinas's just war theory, he states, okay, that every war must have a just cause, okay? That means it must have a correct reason for starting. Every war must be a last resort, okay? You must have tried every peaceful method to end the war first. Every war must have the right intention to restore peace. What was that noise? Thought I had to. Every war must have the right intention to restore peace and justice, okay? Every war must be proportional, as in you cannot launch a nuclear attack against a country that are still using bows and arrows, okay? That would be considered immoral, okay? I just realised maybe the camera wasn't actually facing towards me there. I haven't really set myself up very well today. And there must be a reasonable chance of success in every war. Now, this is normally remembered by the little acronym CLIPS, C-L-I-P-S, okay? C for just cause, L for last resort, I for intention, P for proportional, S for success, okay? You must have a chance of success. You can't go to war if you know you're going to lose. those people's lives be wasted in vain, okay? So if they're talking about why you should go to war, you go, oh, well, one reason Christians go to war is following the just war principle. This would suggest that if they go to war, it must have a just cause. This would be that they're fighting for the right reason, for example, to make the world a better place, and not, for example, for greed reasons. Bang, okay? Now, I'm going to probably save the reasons why we shouldn't go to war for when we do about pacifism, because the arguments of pacifism are sort of the arguments against war, okay? And we're going to have quite a lot of arguments sort of about war generally. So some of these are going to be used for multiple sections, okay? Because just war can also be used about holy war as well, so that's used from that one. And causes of war, you could drop just war in as well, okay? So I'm going to drop in one more of my favourite quotes in this one. Now, did I put... No, that's pacifism, okay? If you do not have a sword, sell your shirt and buy one, okay? Now, this is Jesus talking. What Jesus is saying is it is every person's responsibility to have like weaponry, okay? And we're going to use this quote again later, okay? It's everyone's responsibility to have weaponry, but by that I don't think he means that literally. I think he means that you have to be willing to fight. You have to be willing to fight, okay? And then he says, do not think I came to bring peace. I came with a sword, okay? This suggests that Jesus isn't completely opposed to violence, that sometimes the act of violence is acceptable. Now, if he's telling us to turn the other cheek when we're treated with violence, when was Jesus suggesting we could be violent? And you could say Jesus teaches we could be, might be suggesting we could be violent in protection of others or upholding what is right. When Jesus shows acts of violence or gets at his angriest, it is to kick the money lenders out the temple. Jesus goes around whipping them and kicks over their tables. This is the angriest we probably see Jesus get, except for at one point when he curses a fig tree. More confusing Bible verse, that one. Or when he makes he doesn't make a load of pigs run off a cliff. A load of pigs run off the cliff in his presence. That's a confusing story as well. But he goes and kicks some moneylenders out of the temple, and you could say that this is a sign that Jesus is willing to fight for things that he believes are important, but he does not necessarily need to fight to protect himself. He thinks he can take the punishment, but he'll stand up for the rights of others or for doing the right thing, okay? Now, I'm not going to write any quotes against war because those are the same quotes I'd be using for pacifism, okay? I think those are three good enough arguments for why you should go to war, okay? And you know, to protect others and stuff like that. I don't think there's anything terribly wrong in those ones, okay? Now, holy war, you've got some more specific stuff, okay? Holy war is a war that's fought in the name of God, okay? In God's name with holy blessing, okay? Now, you've got, why should we go to war? Well, eye for an eye. If someone attacks your religion, where's eye for an eye? Eye for an eye. You should go and attack them as well, okay? Not bad, okay? Eye for an eye. We've then got one really simple quote, okay? Declare a holy war. Holy war, okay? Call the troops to arms, okay? Declare a holy war, call the troops to arms. What does this mean? This means that there are times when you must declare a war in the name of God and you must call troops to arms. That sometimes it is right to go and fight to defend your religion and defend your faith if it's under attack. That God wants people to fight from, okay? That it's not enough to do nothing, okay? You could even bring in a quote we used in the last exam, faith without action is dead. If there is truly a threat to the religion, then surely it is you must be willing to fight for that faith, okay? If God is truly real, then you should be willing to lay your life on the line. Jesus was willing to die for us, so should we not be willing to die in the name of Christ? I'm not, personally, but that would be the argument you'd make in the exam, okay? Declare a holy war, call the troops to arms, okay? So we've got, if you do not have your sword, sell your shirt and buy one, okay? Do not think I came to bring peace, but I came with a sword. These two quotes as well can just move straight into here. Absolutely the same thing. You can say, oh, Jesus suggests that we should be willing to fight, okay? That we should be willing to do these things, okay? But let's do a counter-argument to that, okay? Put your sword back in its place, okay? So put your sword back in its place is the start of this quote, okay? And then Jesus goes on to say, for all who live by the sword die by the sword. Okay? If you're willing to use violence as your primary means, you will die by violence. Okay? Those who live by the sword die by the sword. So you could suggest that holy war is wrong because Jesus says if you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and that means that we should not find violent solutions to our problems. And you could then talk about non-violent protest. You could talk about sort of how we should be a pacifist maybe. These are the ideas you would talk about, okay? Once again, a lot of these quotes are useful in lots of places. So if you don't learn every single quote, try and learn some really flexible ones, okay? If you do not have your sword, sell your shirt and buy one. Well, that can be used in quite a lot of different ways, okay? Whereas... I'm sorry, that is really embarrassing that I'm yawning so much. Whereas declare a holy war, call the troops to arms. Okay, it's a great quote, and if you're good at learning quotes, I would try and learn that one. But it's only really useful for holy war. Whereas the just war theory by Thomas Aquinas, that wars must be fought for the correct reason, that's really useful across the board. I'd probably try and remember that one first, okay? The love of money is the root of all evil. Great quote for why you can't start a war for greedy reasons. But once again, only useful in that section, okay? Whereas... love thy enemy and pray for those who persecute you can be used in a few more sections. So be smart, be sensible, pick the quotes that stick out to you the most. Obviously, if you've got a higher chance of remembering it, as in it just sticks in your head straight away, then focus on those ones, because it is unrealistic that you're probably going to learn in this time, unless you've got an incredible memory, every single one of these quotes, okay? Also, maybe don't focus on quotes you know. If you know thou shalt not kill, put it to the side, you've got that one, and put some of these quotes in your sort of more short-term memory. I know that that's not a thing that I'm meant to be sort of teaching for RE and being like, oh, this is just a short-term memory thing, just remember the time being. But we're a week away from the exam. Less than that, we're 3 days from the exam. Sometimes you just need to hold it in your short-term memory. The way I always think about it is like, as you're going to the exam, you've got all the quotes, okay? And you've got the quotes you've known for ages, and they're tucked in your armpits, and they're in your pockets, you've got them safe. And some of the quotes, you're just balancing on your hands, okay? And if you're going to do the exam, you're going to drop them. And so you need to put them down somewhere safe. And that means, for me, writing them on the front of the paper. Now, exam boards are fussy about this, okay, sometimes. But I don't mind someone writing their questions and some quotes on the front of the exam paper as a means to it. Because then you can put those quotes down somewhere. You still all got your proper quotes you've known for years in your pockets. You can get them out later. Not literally. Please don't think I'm talking literally. I don't mean write quotes in your pockets. But you've got love thy neighbour tucked away for years. You've known love thy neighbour for 3 years now. You've got thou shalt not kill tucked away for years. But if you just remember, if you do not have a sword, sell your shirt and buy one, and you're literally repeating it as you go into the exam room, and you just write it down on the paper straight away, then you can stop remembering it for a bit. You're like, right, that quote is written down, I don't need to keep remembering that, and then during the exam, just turn back to it and go, yeah, oh yeah, don't forget that quote. You've put it down temporarily. Just how I would do it while I was doing these things. Sorry, I bought one of those new fancy watches. What are you doing? Goal! Right, so this thing clearly doesn't work very well. Maybe it's because I'm shaking my arms around so much. It just told me I've finished my steps goal for the day. I'm sitting down. How could I finish my steps goal for the day? Stupid thing. Right, pacifism. Pacifism is the idea that we should never fight, that violence is never the answer. Now, your first quote for that one, thou shalt not kill, okay? Thou shalt not kill. Easy peasy, lemon peasy, okay? Then, all who live by the sword, die by the sword. Bang. Another one, okay? That is an easy one. So let's do some more complicated quotes for pacifism, okay? First one. And this can be about pacifism or peacemakers. Blessed are the peacemakers. Easy peasy, okay? 4 words. Blessed are the peacemakers. Now, there is a slight distinction. Pacifists just refuse to fight. A peacemaker is slightly more complicated than that, and there's someone who promotes peace. I could be a completely passive pacifist. I could just be a pacifist and lie on the floor like a slug and be like, I'm never fighting in a war, I don't care. But for most Christians, a pacifist and a peacemaker are very similar ideas, that you are someone who's promoting peace. Most pacifists choose to promote peace, okay? But you'd have to try and, like, if you're worried, make sure you make that distinction, okay? Oh my lord. Now, here's a longer quote, okay? I'm going to move my controller so I can write this one down, okay? If your enemy is hungry, feed them. Now this quote has like a long middle section, so I'm going to feed... Is it feed them or feed him? Feed him, I think. Then you're going to do a ... because we're skipping out the middle of this quote because it's longer, okay? Because we need the second bit, overcome evil with good, okay? Lovely stuff. Overcome evil with good. If you wanted to be, like, annoying, you could learn that as two sort of separate quotes, okay? If your enemy is hungry, feed him. And then remember the second quote, overcome evil with good. Oh, just that last bit, overcome evil with good. The Bible is telling people, okay, that there is a time, okay, to treat people better than they're treating you. Overcome evil with good. You see your enemies being evil, but you do good. You become a pacifist. You refuse to fight against these people, okay? We've got blessed are the peacemakers. Oh, if your enemy is hungry, feed him, overcome him. Then we've also got thou shalt not kill. We've got those who live by the sword die by the sword. Now, let's think if we've got a concrete example for here. Quakers, okay? Quakers are Christian pacifists who work towards making the world a more peaceful place. They refuse to take part in combat even though they're Christians because they believe it's the wrong sort of thing to do, okay? Or what about a Christian group who work to promote peace? Christian Aid, okay? You can talk about them. Or you can talk about Corrymeela, okay? Corrymeela is a peace centre in Northern Ireland. They set up to promote peace between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, okay? Or Northern Ireland and the country of Ireland. I know it's very confusing when they've all got similar names because it's an island with the countries Ireland and the region Northern Ireland of it. And that's confusing. And obviously, with all the stuff about the elections and Brexit, it's been in the news a lot more recently. So Corrymeela has been a sort of peace centre where people live. Oh no. Shameful yawning. I'm so tired. I've been alive so long. Okay, this is my age catching up with me. And that's all of your faults for making me feel old. Okay. Now, your teachers may have taught you other examples as well. They may have taught you Gandhi. Okay, and that's an absolutely fine example of a peacemaker. They may have taught you Martin Luther King. Don't write down milk in your exam. Martin Luther King. Any of you just writing down milk, okay? I mean, some schools may have done the Dalai Lama. I think that would make some sense, okay? Especially if you're doing Buddhism, the Dalai Lama. Okay, these are individuals who work to promote peace, okay? These are individuals who work to promote peace. They were peacemakers in their own country, okay? So Gandhi was trying to stop trying to get freedom for India from the British, okay? Using only non-violent protest. Martin Luther King openly admitted that he was using Gandhi's methods to try and get equal rights for Black Americans in the United States of America, and the Dalai Lama has promoted for peace and reconciliation in Tibet for the last sort of 50 years, okay, and promoting peace around the world, okay, considered one of the main sort of proponents of peace globally, okay. Weapons of mass destruction. Should we have weapons of mass destruction? Well, the first thing I'd want to put down is the sanctity of life, okay. All life is sacred, it's a gift from God, and weapons of mass destruction must go against that because you are taking life which God has made sacred. Oh, you're thinking, is that the only one sanctity of life could be used for? No, sanctity of life could be used to promote pacifism. Sanctity of life could be used to promote holy war, to be against holy war, or against war, or go with thou shalt not kill, okay? Sanctity of life. I need another reason why we shouldn't have weapons of mass destruction. Thou shalt not kill, okay? I'll be us, alright? If you have a nuclear bomb and you drop it, it is going to kill a lot of people on a city. If you obviously drop it in the middle of a desert, it's not going to necessarily. But the Bible says that thou shalt not kill, so therefore why are nuclear weapons not forbidden, okay? However, why do we need nuclear weapons? Well, is the nuclear weapon, and I'm just going to write it down again because I like this quote, okay? If you do not have a sword, sell your shirt and buy one. Could you say that this quote nowadays means if you do not have a nuclear weapon, sell your shirt and buy one? There is no bigger weapon, there's no bigger sword in the world than the nuclear weapon right now, and having a sword means you're able to protect yourself and fight for what you think is right. Since the advent of nuclear weapons, they've been used once, but nuclear deterrent, the idea that if we all have nuclear weapons we cannot launch them, seems to have roughly worked. I don't know, you can make the argument. There's lots of arguments for and against it. But there has not been a world war since the advent of nuclear weapons. And we had two just before the advent of nuclear weapons. You could use this as evidence that nuclear weapons are there for a good thing. However, they're a bad thing, sanctity of life, they take lives that God has made holy. I would then be using the same sort of arguments you'd be using for any war, okay? It's a just war. Is dropping a nuclear weapon a just war? You're going to be taking innocent life. Those people shouldn't be killed in a war, okay? If do not think I came to bring peace, but I came with a sword. Oh, actually, it's all right to fight. Sometimes fighting is the right idea. Maybe if a nuclear weapon was being dropped on someone who's truly evil, it would be the correct thing to do. Oh, hang on. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Okay, even if they have done something bad, doesn't mean you can drop a nuclear weapon on them. These same arguments and same quotes can be used for weapons of mass destruction. Easy peasy, lemon peasy. And finally, how do we help the victims of war? Firstly, and this is one of the most complicated quotes ever. If you know this one, you're a genius. Love thy neighbour. Easy peasy. Okay? Oh, what's the next one? Treat other people how you wish to be treated. What's that? You knew that quote already? Yeah, because it's obvious and easy, okay? How should we help victims of war? Oh, we should help all victims of war because the Bible tells us love their neighbour. That means we should help people no matter where they're from or what their background is. If they've been a victim of war, they are innocent, have been damaged, so we have been hurt, so we should be the ones helping them. Oh, why should we help victims of war? The Bible teaches us to treat other people as we wish to be treated. If I was a victim of war, I'd want someone to help me, and therefore I should extend that help to other people who may have been fallen victim to warfare. Easy peasy to throw those quotes in there, okay? Now, there's other sort of quotes in that one. You've got another quotes. You've got the story of the Good Samaritan, okay? Samaritan, and that should be a capital S, okay? Because Samar is a place. A Good Samaritan is a parable that Jesus tells. What's a Good Samaritan? He tells a parable where a guy is beaten up in the street and he's lying there, he's a Levite, and all these people go past who would be his friends, like the rabbis go past and other Levites go past, and they all leave him beaten up in the street because they're like, oh, I don't want to get beaten up as well, and what if the bandit's still around? And then a Samaritan, who would be historically the man's enemy, and he would expect to leave him in the street, sees him, helps him, takes him to a local inn, and gives money to the innkeeper and says, look after this man for me, here's enough money for him to stay a week, and comes back and checks him, and they say, oh, Jesus is asked, which one of these people was a good neighbour to the man who's beaten up? And you're meant to say, oh, the Good Samaritan, because even though he isn't literally a neighbour, even though he's from a different country to the man, he was the best neighbour because he looked after him. How can we love our neighbour? When Jesus says love thy neighbour, he doesn't actually mean Jean and Chris from next door and next door that side, okay? He means love your fellow man, and if your fellow man lives in a different nation, has been a victim of war, we should love them too, okay? Easy, easy, easy. And then he does, okay, the parable of the sheep and the goats. The parable of the sheep and the goats. Okay, this is telling us to help those who are less fortunate, because by helping those who are less fortunate, we are helping Jesus. And specifically, okay, the victims of war have been refugees because they've been kicked out of their country. Using the Ukraine sort of example, we could say Poland have been very loving and have been treating the sort of refugees from Ukraine with great deals of respect. And they've been following this quote from the Bible, for I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. For I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. Bang. For I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. The Bible clearly says that we should look after those who cannot look after themselves, and if those people are victims of war, then they deserve that sort of respect and help from us, okay? So we should follow those Bible teachings. I think the quotes for this section are relatively easy. Just going to drink some water because I've been talking a lot. Oh, that is the good stuff. That's the most expensive one I've done so far. That one cost me no money because water's free in my house. Oh, let's check on my copper. Now we're going to go over... Oh, it's all full. Right. Right. Maybe I could build more furnaces. No, let's not worry about that now. Let's just melt all the copper. Melt all the copper. Now, let's think about what 12-mark question might come up. What 12-mark question might go up. This is my empty book. This is my empty book. Perfect, okay? So, 2020, the question was, it is wrong for any country to have weapons of mass destruction. So, that question could come up. Not bad, okay? Just going to answer, nuclear weapons are good because they let you protect yourself. It's good to protect yourself, eye for an eye. Nuclear weapons are good because it allows you to have a large weapon in order to stop other wars happening, because you can threaten your enemies. The nuclear deterrent. If you do not have a sword, sell your shirt and buy one. The ultimate sword nowadays is the nuclear weapon. Nuclear weapons are bad. Thou shalt not kill. They are indiscriminate killers. They kill innocent people. Thou shalt not kill. Okay. Why else are nuclear weapons bad? Okay. Sanctity of life. You do not want to take life, which God has made sacred. Okay. And then pacifist lines. Blessed are the peacemakers. We shouldn't have nuclear weapons. We should be selling weapons because we make the world a more peaceful place. And whoever lives by the sword dies by the sword. You could say that quote nowadays could mean whoever lives by the nuclear weapon dies by the nuclear weapon. So nuclear weapons, I'm too worried about, okay? 2019 which was the last sort of like full summer exam. Religious believers should never fight in a war. I would like that question, but I think because I did in 2019, it's unlikely, okay? Because you'd be going, oh, religious believers should fight in a war. The just war theory says that we can fight in a war as long as it's fought for the right purposes. The just war theory suggests that it's a last cause and you're trying to make the world a better place. It's a good thing. Okay, it could be a holy war, so therefore Christians could fight in a holy war, declare a holy war, call the troops to arms, absolutely fine. I mean, if you're going to go for the Muslim view, you could put in the lesser jihad, okay, which is great, okay, it's the idea that all Muslims have a duty to defend their religion, and therefore a holy war is a correct thing. And if the question was, as it was in 2019, religious believers should never fight in a war, you could be like, yes, they should. If it's defending their religion, they should fight in it. However, why should we never fight in a war? Oh, let's go for the pacifist arguments, okay? If your enemy is hungry, feed him. Overcome evil with good. We should not resort to violence. We should fight, okay? Quakers are Christians who show that example, and they believe that they should never fight in a war, okay? They believe in the quote, blessed are the peacemakers, and thou shalt not kill, okay? Turn the other cheek, okay? For all who live by the sword die by the sword. All these quotes suggest that war is wrong. Read the question carefully, because I do have they could just phrase a question about war in a different way, and the question might just be about whether we should go to war. The word I'd be worried about them using, have I got any more signs? Yeah, I've only got 4 more, that's worrying. The word I'd worry about them using is the word violence, okay? So there might be a question such as, and I'll write it in the book actually, it could be a 12 marker like, religious people should never use violence to solve their problems, okay? And this is the idea that, like, the question's all it's saying is violence is never the answer. Well, that's just a question. Did I write that? Yeah. That's just a question about pacifism and war again. It's just phrased in a funny way without having the word pacifism or war in it. So you'd read that, and I worry that people would read that and start talking about crime and like personal violence. But if it's in this section, section D, it's going to be about warfare. And it's going to be about, like, should Christians fight in a war, okay? Then 2018, war is the best way to solve problems between countries. That does mean in 2018 and 2019, the question was basically, is war a good thing? That worries me, okay? In the spec paper that's on the website, the one before that was, there are no good reasons for countries to possess a nuclear war. And the one before that was, war is never right, okay? So what we've had on the 5 papers on the AQA website is we have had nuclear weapons twice, and we've had we should never fight in a war. War is the best way to solve problems, and war is never right. But all those questions involve the word war. So where do I think the question is going to be? Okay, I think it's going to be something about pacifism or victims of war. Okay, I think these are the questions we're going to see. Okay, let me check how much time I've spent, and then I'll decide what I'm going to do exactly. Where's my thing? Oh, 32 minutes. Okay, maybe I can have a go at 2 questions. We'll see. Okay, so I think a pacifism question is really easy, okay? Because it might be like, oh, all religious believers should be pacifists. And I think that's so easy, because you're going to go, yes, they should, it's wrong to take a life, thou shalt not kill. Oh, yeah, it's wrong to take a life because Allah does not love the aggressor. However, that doesn't mean you can't actually fight, it just means you shouldn't start the fight. Oh, pacifism is right, love thy enemy and pray for those who persecute you. Turn the other cheek, we should not react to violence with violence. Oh, pacifism, blessed are the peacemakers. The actual blessed thing to do would be a peacemaker, not to fight in a war. If your enemy is hungry, feed them, overcome evil with good. Oh, look, all these people are pacifists. Martin Luther King's a good example for Christians because he's a pacifist. He followed the teachings of Jesus that said, turn the other cheek, he refused to follow violence with violence. Oh, for all those who live by the sword die by the sword, therefore Christians should be pacifists. However, Christians shouldn't be pacifists because if you do not have a sword, sell your shirt and buy one. Why was Jesus telling people to buy swords? It wasn't just because he liked to hang them up above his bed because he liked Game of Thrones, okay? The just war principles are Christian rules on when you can go to war, okay? Declare a holy war, call the troops to arms. It's the idea that sometimes religious people need to fight for their faith. Muslims fight for their faith under the lesser jihad, okay? It's simple, 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 okay? Do not think I came to bring peace, okay, with a sword. Jesus wants us to fight, to stand up for those things that are right, okay? So, these are all, like, if it's a pacifism question, I think it's easy. The question that I would worry about is one about victims of war, the treatment of victims of war, which would be like, I'll get the phrasing of it right. Oh, I'm doing let's see how many of those blocks I can build now. What, I can't build any? Why did I build a couple? Oh, there it is. 15. That is not many for all the work I'm doing. Right, anyway. So, what if the question was something like, it is every religious believer's duty to help victims. Oh, it is, let's just give it more simple. It is everyone's duty to help victims of war. Now, that question is more difficult than it looks. Because it's not difficult to start that question in my mind. Okay. Now, obviously, I'm an RE teacher. I'm going to find them all like relatively easy to start. I do this for a job. Though some of the answers I've... Oh, sorry, dog. I woke you up by dropping the controller. You're okay. You're okay. Go back to sleep. Professor Rose was easily startled at night. She gets into a deep slumber, and then I drop the controller, and she wakes up. I know. You can go upstairs in a second. She likes to sleep in my son's bed. It is adorable. But she won't go up to bed until I'm going up to bed. She likes to make sure the downstairs floor is clear first. She's very much our monster hunter. She also likes barking at the postman, but I don't want him in the house in the middle of the night. That would be really weird. So it's everyone's duty to help victims of war. This looks easy at first, because you're going to make this argument that it is good to help victims of war. The Bible says it. The Bible says help other people, treat the people you've treated. That's all pretty easy, okay? The downside is arguing that we shouldn't help victims of war. That, I think, is genuinely very difficult, okay? Like, I think you're going to find that to be a very tough sort of ask. You're going to have to either use a Christian quote and misuse it and then say it's a weak... I think, for my conclusion, I'm definitely coming to the conclusion that we should help victims of war, okay? I'm going to write probably 3 paragraphs out of my 4 main paragraphs. I'm going to write 3 saying... about religion. I'm going to do one non-religious paragraph. That's how I'm probably thinking of setting this one out. I'm going to go religious, it's right to help them. Religious, it's wrong to help them. But I'm going to make sure that's a pretty poor argument. And you're thinking, why do you make a poor argument? Because then in my 3rd paragraph, I can smash this argument down and be like, however, this is a poor argument because blah, blah, blah. Attack my own argument. And then I'm going to be like, but non-religious believers would say this. And then I'm going to bring my conclusion and say, actually, it's right to help victims of war, because even if you're not religious, you should help them, and all religious people should. So overall, it suggests that it is everyone on earth's duty to help victims of war, okay? We should all help the innocent. So, we're going to help victims of war. Let's look at our victims of war quotes, first of all, okay? Love thy neighbour, treat other people as you treated, the Good Samaritan, okay? Parable of the sheep and the goats. We have got tons. So, let's go for the Good Samaritan, because that's maybe one that not many people use as much, okay? Because love thy neighbour is so easy, okay? So, one reason why many Christians would agree with this statement might be the parable of the Good Samaritan. Okay, so I'm throwing in a sourced Bible story there. Okay, I'm going, look, this is a parable. It's a parable of the stories of Jesus. I'm saying the Good Samaritan. I'm making sure whoever's marking this knows I know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, this story suggests that Jesus wants us to help others even if they are not an ally of ours. Okay, that's my first simple statement. This may lead Christians to see that it is a duty to help victims of war, no matter where they are from. For example, helping refugees fleeing war zones and persecution might be seen as an example of following this teaching. Okay, so I'm saying, Good Samaritan suggests that we should help other people even if they're not directly from where we're from, If I'm helping refugees who are fleeing a war, then I am following the teaching of the Good Samaritan, and that's the teaching of Jesus, as that will be considered a good deed and get me into the kingdom of heaven, okay? You can add all that detail if you want, but it's late at night, I keep yawning, so I just need to move on, okay? Now, on the other hand, now I'm going to try and do a religious argument that suggests that it's wrong to help victims of war. That is difficult, okay? On the other hand, some Christians, because the Bible generally says we should help people, okay? So I'm going to have to argue the Bible saying not to help people, okay? Some Christians may argue that we do not have a duty to help victims of war, okay? So now I'm stretching my brain going, oh, what can I say, okay? As if it is their nation that has attacked first, they may claim an eye for an eye. So you should get retribution against those who attacked you rather than helping the victims of the war. Now, victims of the war. Now, this is not the greatest paragraph ever written, okay, and for many reasons, okay? But I'm going to put in this paragraph the weakness of it, because I'm clearly stacking the deck in the argument that helping victims of war is good, okay? And by adding in this judgment as I'm going through, I'm showing the examiner that I can evaluate, okay? Now, I've said an eye for an eye, okay? But, okay, when Jesus was told an eye for an eye, he told people to turn the other cheek, okay? So, I'm going to bring that up, okay? So, if you're using eye for an eye, don't forget Jesus said the opposite. However, weakness of this argument is that Jesus told his followers that they no longer should listen to the teaching an eye for an eye, and rather they should turn the other cheek, okay? I wish I put that in quotation marks before. Imagine there's a quotation mark before it. If I was writing by hand, I could just go back and do that, okay? This suggests that we should not seek retribution against people, but make sure we are helping the victims of war. Another argument a Christian may make to suggest that we should help that helping victims of war is a duty is that they are taught. Now, what should we go for? Taught to. Let's go love thy neighbour. Let's keep it simple. You lot are probably going to use love thy neighbour. Why not go with it? Love thy neighbour. This means to help others and treat them with love. Move on. An example of this would be helping victims of war. Christian organisation. I spelled that wrong. I put a B in it. It doesn't have a B in it. I'm not going back and changing it. That's just how my life is now. Organisation. That's how I'm saying it now. Organisation. You're going to have to deal with that. A Christian organisation that helps victims of war is Christian A. They follow the teaching, love thy neighbour, as well as treat other people as you wish to be treated, and this leads them to help. What have I done? To help. I can hear arrows being fired. Did someone manage to break in? No, they're just outside. Must be night time. Sometimes I hear arrows, mate. I hear a lot of arrows going off. On the other hand, oh god, it's gone back to the first page. Where? And this leads them to help victims. Oh, for Rimini's sake. And this leads to help victims of war as they see it as a fundamental part of Christian duty. Now, on the other hand, some non-religious believers may feel they do not have to follow the religious teachings and would have no duty to help victims of war. This is because they may argue that they did not cause the war or the victim's suffering, so therefore they are not responsible to help that person. Okay? Now, not a very kind argument, okay? So we're going to say that, okay? However, many non-religious people still do help victims of war, not because of religious duty, but because they believe they should try and help and protect the innocent, even when they are not local or have been involved with the conflict. For example, we can see the international community's assistance it lent to Ukraine during the recent conflict. Okay, let us have a know. I know what's going on in the world. Okay, then I need an overall. Okay, Okay, on my opinion, whatever you want to start your conclusion with. Obviously, I'm going to go for the most basic ones because I want you to see the most basic ones. But if you're fancy pants and you're good at English, throw something more complicated in. Okay, but I'm going to go for an overall. Overall, I see it as a fundamental duty of all people, religious and otherwise, to help victims of war. Okay? This is because I see all humans as equal, as do many religious believers, and therefore it can be seen as a duty to help those who are suffering at no fault of their own. Okay. Now, once again, it's hard when you're writing in these little Minecraft books. I don't know how long that answer would be on a piece of paper. Okay. It says 12 pages, but obviously it wouldn't take up 12 pages in a book, like an exam booklet. Okay. I don't think that feels like the longest answer I've ever written in my life. I'd normally expect someone to get 10 lines across a page, and many of these lines, 10 10 words across a page, and many of these are like 3 words across. Okay, some Christians may argue that we do not have a duty to help. I mean, so that's 13 lines in 3. So I'd say that you could really see this as like a couple of lines worth of stuff. Maybe that whole paragraph might be sort of like, it's like less than half that many lines. So I don't think these are huge paragraphs, but I hope that is in some way helpful. I could really see. I think this section could be a really good one for us, okay? And I'm talking to my classes, but I think to anyone who's watching these videos, that there's lots of quotes that are really easy to use, okay? Be confident and make sure you've got your quotes. Your quotes back you up. They're going to be asking questions about war. Peace and peacemakers are the only ones where you're going to have to talk, like you're going to go completely out of your comfort zone. And don't forget, in the last couple of years, they've asked so many questions about war and so many questions about mass destruction that peace and peacemaking may come up as a 12 mark. So make sure you've got some examples of people who work towards peace. Quakers, Christian Aid, Corrie Mealer, okay? Gandhi, Martin Luther King, the Dalai Lama, okay? Those are examples of people who've worked towards peace personally. Any questions, as always, put them into comments. I think it's an English exam on Wednesday. I don't think my school have any exams tomorrow that any of my students are taking. But if you are taking an exam tomorrow, good luck. If you're taking another one on Wednesday, good luck. But most importantly, good luck for RE on Thursday. There'll be videos going up tomorrow and Wednesday doing the final module, theme E. I might actually put up 2 tomorrow, and then I'll be trying to do a live stream the night of the exam to make sure you lot are all ready for it. You can ask any final questions, but any questions, put them in the comments, any sections you want me to go through. Yeah, good luck.